There's a pretty one, Ulysses. There it is.
Hello BookTube, I'm Sean the Book Maniac. Welcome back to my channel. It's an indoor Friday reads. It's raining cats and dogs, as they say. Do you know that idiom, it's raining cats and dogs, is the one every Japanese person knows in English. They must study it in high school or something, and everybody knows it, and they always like to use it and mention it whenever we talk about idioms in class, and I often think, I've never heard anybody use that idiom. It's kind of one of the nerdiest, most useless idioms. I think we can get rid of that one. Anyway, remember my hairdryer story? Kenji and I are not getting a divorce. I have been using that story this week. It's a little bit of a white lie. I've been telling my students it happened last week. It actually happened 2 weeks ago, because my classes, whether it's a private lesson or a group lesson, we always start with, how was your weekend? They tell me what they did in their weekend. I make notes on the mistakes of their sentences, and we go from there. And, 14 months into a pandemic where nobody goes out, nobody does anything, it's really difficult to think of anything to say about your weekend. So I recycled the story from 2.5 weeks ago and pretended it happened last week, and I've been telling all my students, and by the end of the week, after I've taught, a dozen different classes or students during the course of a week, that story is just so imprinted in my brain, I could probably recite it in my sleep. So the opening sentence: Kenji and I are not getting a divorce. That story. Speaking of routines as a teacher, I am one of those teachers that has a standard. They're like dad jokes, but for teachers, but for me in the classroom, that never fail to get a reaction from my students. So I might as well share them here, because I don't have any other news that isn't about books. I think I have two, but boy, I'm tired, so I can only think of one. So let's just go with the one stupid dad/teacher/Sean in the classroom joke that I always make. Students are often telling me that they went out shopping, and invariably, when they finish their story after I've corrected that no, it's not I went to shopping, it's I went shopping, I then ask them a question. I say, and what did you buy? Pregnant pause. For me. And they just laugh and laugh and laugh, and that's just, I say that several times a week. Anyway, luckily you are all here for the books, so I do have lots to tell you. It's been a great reading week. I have finished 3. I finished Panenka, Rónán Hession's second novel, and it was excellent. I'm not going to give it a star rating because I now feel that Rónán is in my circle of friends, and I've decided here on in I'm not rating, or I'm not going to review or rate friends' books. I make an exception, I think, for Tina Cover's translations, because she has assured me that she wouldn't take it personally unless I thought the writing or the translation was crap. She wouldn't take it personally, because the last one of hers that I read a few months ago, I didn't like the novel that much. I thought the translation was great. Aside from translator friends, I'm not going to review friends' novels. I did enjoy it. It was excellent. I have a Zoom chat coming soon to Sean the Book Maniac channel near you, chatting with Rónán about this second novel, so stay tuned for that. I recommend it. It is about a 50-something-year-old man. This story is not set in a particular country. It's quite a kind of a universal setting, could be in a city anywhere. And when he was a famous soccer player in his youth, professional soccer player, he executed a penalty kick, the Panenka, and he botched it, and it made his team lose the tournament, lose the final game of the year. Look, I don't know anything about soccer or sports at all, but I didn't need to really enjoy the novel, but it just triggers a humiliation and a shame that mars the rest of his life. And now we meet him at age 50, and he is dealing with serious illness and messy family life, but it has a reconciled, sweet relationship with his adult daughter, a single mom, and her grandchild, who he lives with. And the story goes from there, but it's just one of those Rónán Hession worlds where friendship is as important as marriage, and conversation is as important as action. If you enjoyed Leonard and Hungry Paul, which I very much did, you will enjoy this. And that is as far as I'm going to go with reviewing this, but my chat with Rónán will be coming in the next week, I hope. Much less successful, and I was surprised that by the end I was really sick of this book. That is The Diary of a Provincial Lady by E.M. Delafield. I enjoyed the first half, and if it had stopped after 150 pages, I would have probably given it 4, maybe even 5 stars, but it just got old really fast. It's just too light for me. There's nothing of significance going on. I mean, this upper middle class woman, she's a little bit harried, she's a little bit broke, and there was things about financial stability and stuff, and her marriage seemed really stale and so on, but her stance was to kind of mock herself and mock everyone around her, and not that I was maybe mock is too strong of a word, but she took such a offhanded stance towards everything that I just got really tired. The humor didn't make me laugh, and by the end I was just wanted it to be done. I think I really kind of skimmed the last 100 pages or so 3 stars. This was almost a 5-star read. I loved so much of it, but it was a very solid, enthusiastic 4-star read. This Indonesian novel, Not a Virgin, by Nuril Basri, translated from the Indonesian by John H. McGlynn. What an excellent novel. It is about 4 young Indonesian men that meet. Most of them are staying at a Islamic boarding school. It's not a boarding school. It's an Islamic, well, it's kind of like a boarding school called a pesantren. I think that my buddy reader, Freddie of Sluggish Reader, taught me how to pronounce it. I think he pronounces it pesantren. But they don't study all of their classes in-house. They go to their high school, but they also take Islamic kind of theology or religious instruction in the pesantren. So the irony is that a couple of them are living there, and they meet a couple other Indonesian men, very young, hot Indonesian men with a wide spectrum of sexualities and gender identities, and they kind of make their way through Jakarta and make a very strong friendship. It was one of the most satisfying novels about a group of friends that I've read in a long time, and the way that it dealt with some very serious and important matters like sexuality, coming out, homophobia, drugs, transgender issues, with such a light touch, and capitalism, selling your body, prostituting yourself, being a go-go dancer, all of those things were incorporated into a story that never lost sight of the fact that at bottom it was about the quirky and very solid friendships these men formed. I thought it was excellent. Now, because the focus was a quieter sort of interpersonal focus, kind of a group dynamic focus, there was some drama, but the focus wasn't so much on it. At the end, there's a couple very dramatic scenes that I thought the writer botched. I had to knock a star off, but that was just me, maybe. I'm looking forward to hearing Freddie's thoughts on that, because he gave it 5 stars. So other people might not have that problem, but it was just that one chapter, and there was another fairly dramatic scene near the end. And the one character who was transgender, I didn't think their character, I don't think we ever had any revelation about which pronouns this transgender character was using, but I will say I don't think their character was as fully developed as the other 3 men, as the 3 male characters were, the 3 cisgendered characters were. That diminished some of the power of the ending for me. Those feel like minor quibbles in a novel that really, I was surprised at how good it was. The translation is excellent. I learned so much about Indonesian culture and different Islamic things. There is a lot about the Indonesian martial arts, the name of which escapes me, and the gay speak, the private secret gay code language that Indonesian gays use, and there's an afterword about that. And some mystic stuff that didn't bother me, that was made the story that much more interesting. Really great. So those are what I've finished. I have started way too many books. I am back up to reading 30 books. Well, I think maybe now down to 27 or 28 now that because of those ones I finished. So anyway, I'm having a good time. Don't look at the bags under my eyes. In no particular order, I have started Balthazar, the second novel in the Alexandria Quartet by Lawrence Durrell. I'm only 30 pages in. I decided on page 14 that I was just hooked. I was just so deeply bewitched by that first chapter that I told Adam on Voxer, I am in for the continuous buddy read of the other two novels because he's planning to read the third one in July and the fourth in August, and I was kind of balking at that because I thought I might like to space it out over a couple more years, but no. I want to keep going, so this is starting out just amazingly, and if you know the story, you know that the handprint on the wall is a pretty central and very enigmatic, mysterious, not symbol, but I don't like symbols, but image in the story. Symbols suck. I am ideologically opposed to symbols. Anyway, Adam had told me that the second novel doesn't really cover new ground, just gives you a whole bunch of other perspectives on what you'd read in Justine, and that is very much the case. For once, Adam didn't lie to me, and that just captured my imagination in those early pages where I'm just so deep into this that I feel compulsive about what I've read. So far in Balthazar, can't wait to keep going. The Fabulous Zed Watson, a middle grade non-binary novel by the non-binary author Basil Sylvester and their father Kevin Sylvester, Canadian writing duo. Kevin Sylvester has written a bunch of other children's lit and other stuff. Wow, this is fantastic. I am 40 pages into it. The first person narrator is this teenage non-binary character, and they are brimming with enthusiasm and nerdy bookish joy, so yeah, what's not to love? Zed is completely, in the nerdiest way possible, obsessed with the mystery around an unpublished novel that I believe was from the previous century. Well, that would be the 20th century. I think it might have even been the 19th century. I can't remember, but that had a non-binary or transgender character, and it was suppressed because there was such a outcry to the story, and along with a bunch of other nerdy enthusiasts, they are trying to find where the manuscript was buried, and there are clues in poetry. I mean, it's just the most literarily beguiling middle grade novel. I absolutely love it. It is fabulous. Some of these, I talked about my reaction to the first 10 pages, or the first chapter, on my weekend vlog. I hadn't vlogged for forever. It was a very rejuvenating experience to make a vlog, and for those of you that are new, I call it a vlog because on one of my very first videos where I mispronounced it as vlog, and then I kind of laughed at myself and said, as I was recording that video, I'm going to keep calling it a vlog, and I think it drives some people crazy. Occasionally get a comment, it's actually vlog, but no, we're going with vlog on my channel, people. The thing that I didn't say in the two-part vlog was my gout is gone. It's been a month since I've had a flare-up, so I think it's done, maybe for another 7 years, I hope. So the mobility, the ability to just go and wherever I want and not have to worry about my sore foot is fantastic. And the vaccinations for my age bracket in Tokyo, maybe in July, but I'm not holding my breath. But I'm just in the mood to kind of go back out into society, and after a long 14 months of staying close to home, and the vlog was kind of celebrating that without me articulating it in the video. But anyway, that's a little bit of an aside. If you saw the vlogs, you've heard my preliminary comments on a few, including this next one, The Recent East by Thomas Grattan. And this is a novel with a gay main character who I didn't meet until chapter 2. I've now met him. His mother was the teenage German girl in the opening chapter, and she and her parents defect to West Germany. And I loved that first chapter, and I now have read I don't know if I finished the second chapter. Yes, I have. So I've read 32 pages, and I'm really enjoying it. I think the writing is lovely. The characters are quirky. I didn't realize how quirky the daughter in the first chapter, who is now the mother in the second chapter, was until a few pages after whatever I said on the vlog. Because, yes, she was odd, and she is an odd woman, and that's working for me. Her son is gay, although I don't think he's out. I think maybe teenager. He has a younger sister who was so smart that she was pushed ahead a year in school, so they're in the same grade and very close. The mother receives a letter that her family home in East Germany, now that the Berlin Wall has come down, it's actually available to her. She has inherited it, as well as a large savings account that was there all those years. She has just split from her husband, and she decides to take the kids and move to into what was East Germany, and they've just arrived. Writing is interesting. I'm kind of bracing myself to find something not to like, because I have seen some very, very deeply mixed reviews, including one of my subscribers who has commented that he just couldn't get into it at all. So far, I'm into it. It's early days. As usual, I'm not very organized, because I should have started by saying I have one bail, and that is this novel from Mozambique, The First Wife, A Life of Polygamy by Paulina Chiziane, translated from Portuguese by David Bookshaw. I couldn't stand the tone of this. I absolutely hated and I did use the word whiny, and that's probably too strong of a word, but just a really woe is me. And I thought, oh my God, I'm reacting to it now, and it's 500 pages. And also, when she tries to stop complaining and think positive, she metaphorizes. So I was whining about the first 10 pages on my vlog. Sentences like, because her husband is never home, and she doesn't yet know, but obviously finds out that he's got a whole bunch of other wives that she didn't know about. So, I mean, she has a right to complain. I just don't want to read a book that is narrated in the first person in that tone. Sentences like, I gave him love, I gave him children so he could gain the esteem of others in life, I sacrificed my dreams for his. That's all true, but I can't stand that mood of that tone in a first person. No. And then chapter 2. It's the metaphorizing that just made my skin crawl. My life is a dead river. The waters of my river have stopped in time and wait for destiny to bring them the strength of the wind. I mean, for a different reader, that could be very profound, but no! So, that is a bail, and in its place, a subscriber that I don't remember having had a comment from before, Lori, thank you so much, Lori, left a comment on my vlog to say that she was aware of a out-of-print collection of short stories by a Mozambican writer, and I managed to track down a copy online. So, I have started it. I had mused on the vlog about reading the white Mozambican writer, Miyakoto, for the first time, and I am interested to try him, but I still kind of shrink back from reading white writers from the African continent. I'm sorry, I am prejudiced that way. So that collection is called We Killed Mangy-Dog and Other Stories. I don't know, but I'm guessing that Mangy-Dog is not a dog's name, it's a person's name, so I know there's some of you out there that would not read a book where a dog was killed. I'm just guessing that it's not. It's not We Killed the Mangy-Dog, so We Killed Mangy-Dog and Other Stories by Luís Bernardo Honwana. And this one is translated, I wonder from which language. Is it also from the Portuguese? I'm guessing. By Dorothy Guidas. And the first story was about 20 pages long, and it was about a poor laborer whose white overseer is very abusive and racist, and he has to witness his overseer seducing his daughter. his daughter was maybe not a teenager. I don't know. It didn't seem to me. It seemed to me that she was maybe in her 20s at least. Interesting use of language. A weird style that was quite intriguing. Lots of footnotes about vocabulary, translated vocabulary words. The second book is going a lot better than the first wife. Also for Pride, I didn't say that the other two books were for Pride, but I think that's obvious, is this anthology of gay male short fiction, Speak My Language and Other Stories, edited by Torsten Højer. And this is a buddy read with Ollie Bliss, and we have read the first story. We're doing 2 stories a week because I want to finish it up this year. And it's so chunky that we have to do a couple stories a week to do it. And the first story was by the gay American writer James Robert Baker. This is serious, and it was a fascinating story. He is famous for Tim and Pete, and I believe that I have a copy. I believe I acquired a copy, and it's sitting on my shelf waiting for me, but I've got so many books like that that I don't know if I ever actually did get a copy. I'm pretty sure that it's there. Anyway, he is a very controversial, kind of in-your-face writer. A lot of his protagonists are kind of antisocial, disillusioned, politically incorrect gay men. I won't tell you everything about the story, but the main part of it was about him visiting a sex club and all of the things that go through his thoughts about gay male culture, gay male sexual culture, were absolutely fascinating. There was something almost archetypal about it. I thought it was a great story. Great way to start this one. The next story is called Dead Air by Joshua Winning. I'll be reading that on the weekend, and I've never heard of that person. Joshua Winning is a film journalist and author of the dark fantasy series The Sentinels trilogy. So he lives in North London, and so I hope this isn't a dark fantasy story, but we'll see. Also for Pride, Cassandra at the Wedding by Dorothy Baker. I love this one. I was raving about the first 10 pages. I have now read an additional 20 pages. The first full chapter is 28 pages long. I just finished that chapter this morning. I love the writing. I love the protagonist. She is prickly and a very emotional person with lots of neuroses, and she is apparently a lesbian who is driving back to her hometown, to her father's farm, because her twin sister's getting married. Now, the dynamic that it makes the story so fascinating is just a few weeks or a few months before this wedding, which seemed to come out of nowhere, she and her twin sister made a vow to each other that neither of them would marry and they would always live together and be together. And there seemed to be a lesbian-like intensity to this promise they made. And then just a few months later, she is feeling quite ambivalent about going back for the wedding. And I love it. I love this. Who is Dorothy Baker? I've read her Wikipedia entry, but she is not somebody I had ever heard of before. And she was kind of a closeted lesbian. I mean, she was out in her fiction, kind of, but was heterosexually married. And I don't know, I hope that there was at least some companionship in that marriage, but kind of a tortured psychology to the writer that makes the story incredible to read. I talked about my reaction to the first 10 pages of Mu Cao's In the Face of Death We Are Equals, translated from the Chinese by Scott E. Myers, that one of the side characters, the main character, I don't know if he's the main character for the whole novel, because I don't read, there's a synopsis here that I have no interest in reading, so I don't know if he's the protagonist of the entire novel. The novel is about working class gay men in China. The gay character, his co-worker, who he was in love with when they were first started working at the crematorium in their early 20s, this straight guy that he's in love with is a necrophiliac, and he catches him in the act. So that's grotesque. It's not described in a disgusting way. It's it's not a vivid graphic description of it, but the focus is on the gay character, and in the next 10 pages or so that I've read since then, we see him lonely and struggling for connection, finding a new companion that broke his heart, and then finding another one, and he's now at the age of 60 about to retire from his lifelong job at the crematorium. So it's wonderfully weird in that inimitably Chinese way. Chinese literature is just weird like that, and I love it, and this is starting out really, really great. And finally, I am maybe 30 pages or so Yep, 30 pages into this humongous, brand spanking new biography of Barbara Pym, The Adventures of Miss Barbara Pym by Paula Byrne. I just love that picture of her. There are so many photographs reproduced on the lovely glossy paper that I've never seen before. There was only about 7 or 8 pictures of Barbara Pym in circulation online or in other biographies that I've read, and there's a whole bunch more in here that are delightful. I'm enjoying it very much. So far, I'm not sure that there is anything that I hadn't already known about in the other 2 biographies, but maybe. But it's got a lively energy to the writing. And this is a buddy read with Hannah of Hannah's Books and Ange of Beyond the Pages. We'll be checking in, I can't remember when, sometime next week, I think, on the first 100 or so pages. If you have read Sometime Gazelle, that fabulous novel, Barbara Pym's debut that she wrote for like 20 years or so before it ever got published. She was working on it, and it opens with this hilarious scene of a priest and his combinations, which in North America we would say long underwear, or in fact combinations is the top and bottom all together in one, like a t-shirt, long underwear, all in one, as one garment, right? That's what combinations are, but that the main characters could see the priest's white combinations under his cassock. So we find out that was actually an experience that Barbara Pym had. She fell in love with a handsome young curate when she was 14. During a chat with Barbara Pym's mother, this handsome young curate had crossed his legs, revealing white combinations under his cassock. I don't know, am I pronouncing cassock right? I'm not even sure what a cassock is. But anyway, that's the source. I love finding out that kind of stuff. This is going to take us, I think it's a 5-week buddy read because it's 600 pages. It's starting out really good. Whew, that's what I've started. So I'm only starting 3 new books in the coming weeks. This one is my choice for Invisible Cities and Caribathon, and maybe also for one other reason. Let me show you the book first. In the Castle of My Skin by George Lamming. This is a Barbadian novel, and Barbados is one of the countries this month. This has been sitting on my shelf forever. It is a classic of Barbadian literature. It's a coming-of-age story, so that sounds right up my alley. And so it also fits for Caribathon, which is happening this month. And I am pretty sure, but I can't find it. I have a message out to Karen of Run Right Reads, but I'm pretty sure she's featuring this as her pick for her Run Right Reads book club. So I have a whole bunch of reasons to read it. Can't wait to start. Originally published in 1953. And the other 2 are for buddy reads or similar such collaborations. This is a queer novella, Pete's Underpants by Bertie Marshall, and unfortunately that series of photo booth stickers does not show underpants. I'm kind of buddy reading this with Dan of the Weird Book Club. We're going to do a Zoom chat about it next weekend. It's 108 pages, maybe 107 pages. I haven't started it yet, but it'd be easy to read in the coming week. And you remember that one of my favorite reads of last year was the novel The Long View by Elizabeth Jane Howard that I did as a buddy read with my dear buddy reading friend Leah from Calgary. And now we are starting another novel by her, and I'm pretty sure this was her debut novel. This one is called The Beautiful Visit. And I can't wait because I just loved The Long View so much. Yeah, it's her first novel, and it's about a young girl growing up in the years surrounding the First World War. This one was originally published in 1950. So, I've got some serious reading going on. I hope you do too. Thanks for watching.